cartels. Thank you. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Kunda Bihari Nanavalabha Givaruna Se Nanavalabha Givaruna Nana Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravitkacharya Osateta Satashi Shimad. His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasiti Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopinath Saya Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Mathuradam Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamuna Ki Jai. Shrimati Vilasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Go Premananda Hari Hari. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ma'om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Srinivadi Paschachajaya Shatarni. So before beginning class, I just want to say how much impressed I am with all the devotees here, their bhakti and everything like that. Last night, it was just like an ocean of devotion. It's amazing. I mean, even up to about 10 o'clock last night with the kirtan going on, which I can hear in my room, it was beautiful. There's just like so much bhakti here. It's actually overwhelming. I don't feel qualified to be here actually, but by the mercy of the devotees, I'm here. So anyway, so Srimad Bhagavatam, read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 12th chapter, text 12. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Some of you can follow along. Yat Pada Pangsur Bahujanma Trishrato Tritatma Bir Yogi Bir Api Alabhya Sa Eva Yad Drik Vishaya Swayam Stita Kim Varnyate Dishtam Ato Rajokasam Yat Pada Pamsur Bahujanma Krishrato Atma Vir Yogi Vir Apyalabhya Saheva Yadrik Vishaya Swayam Stita Kim Varnyate Dishtam Ato Rajokasam Yat Pada Pangsur Bahujanma Krishrato Tritatma Bir Yogi Bir Apyalabhya Saheva Yadreg Vishaya Swayam Stita Kim Varnyate Dishtam Ato Vrajakasam Yat Yatpada bangsur bahujanma kritshrito Tritatma bir yogibir apyalapya Saheva yadrik vishaya swayam stita Kim varnyate dishtam ato vijaukasam.
Excuse me. Yatpada pamsur bahu janma kritskrato. Yatmabir yogibir apyalabhya.
Yogabir yapilabhya Sahevayadrik vishaya swayam stita
Kim varyate dishtam ato vijaukasam.
Kim varnyate dishtam ato vijaukasam. Huh?
Yatpada pamsur bahujanma kritskrato
Yatpadabamsur bahujanma kritskrato
Atmabhir yogibhirapyalabhya
Vitatmabir yogabir apyalabhya
Saeva yadrik vishaya swayam stita
Sahevayadrik vishayam swayam sita
Varnyate tishtamato vrajaukasam
Varnyate ishtam ato vajaukasam
Yatpada pamsur bahujanma kritsata
Yatpadabamsur bahujanma kritskrato
Ditatma bijogibir apilabhyaha
Vitatmabir yogabir apyalabhyaha
Saeva jadrik vishaya shayam stitaha
Sahevayadrik vishaya swayam stita
Kim varnate dishtamato prajaukasam
Kim varnyate dishtam ato vajaukasam. Sadhuji? Yes, Sadhuji.
Yatpadapamsur bahujanma kritskrato
Yatpadapamsur bahujanma kritskrato
Rita bijogibir apyalabhya
Tatmabir yogibir apyalabhya
Saheva jadrik vishaya swayam stitaha
Sahevayadrik vishaya swayam stita
Kim varnayate dishtam ato vrajokasham
Kim vanyate dishtam ato vajaukasam. Any ladies? No? Okay. Yat whose? Pada pangsu, dust of the lotus feet. Bahujanma, in many births. Kritshrata, from undergoing severe austerities and penances as a way of practicing yoga, meditation, etc. Drita Atmabi, by persons able to control the mind. Yogipi, by such yogis. Ajnana yogis, Raja yogis, Jnana yogis, etc. Api, indeed. Alabhya, cannot be achieved. Sat, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eva, indeed. Yatrik Vishya has become the object of direct vision face to face. Swayam, personally. Stita, present in front of them. Kim, what? Varnyate, can be described. Tishtam,
Tishtam,
about the fortune.
about the fortune.
Atta,
Ata,
therefore.
therefore.
Raja Ukasam,
Ukasam,
of the inhabitants of Brajabhumi, Vrindavana.
the inhabitants of Brajabhumi Vrindavan.
So translation, yogis may undergo severe austerities and penances for many births by practicing yama, niyama, asana, and pranayama, none of which are easily performed. Yet in due course of time, when these yogis attain the perfection of controlling the mind, they will still be unable to taste even a particle of the dust from the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What then can we describe about the great fortune of the inhabitants of Brajabhumi Vrindavan, with whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally lived and who saw the Lord face to face? So we can repeat this verse. Please repeat. Yogis may undergo severe austerities and penances
Yogis may undergo severe austerities and penances
for many births
For many
for many births
by practicing yama, niyama,
by practicing Yama,
asana, and pranayama, none of which are easily performed.
none of which are easily performed.
Yet in due course of time,
Yet in due course of time,
when these yogis attain the perfection of controlling the mind,
when the yogis attain the perfection of the mind,
they will still be unable to taste
they will still be unable to taste
even a particle of dust from the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
even a particle of dust from the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of God.
What then can we describe
What then can we describe
about the great fortune of the inhabitants of Brajabhumi Vrindavan,
about the great fortune of the inhabitants of Vrindavan,
with whom the Supreme Personality of Godhead
with whom the Supreme Personality of God
personally lived
personally lived,
and who saw the Lord face to face?
and who saw the Lord face to face.
So purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Yeah.
Jai. We can simply imagine the great fortune of the inhabitants of Vrindavana. It is impossible to describe how, after many, many births of pious activities, they have become so fortunate. So again, we'll read the verse. Again. Yapada Vangsur Janma Kritrito Dritatma Vir Yugabir Apyalapya Sahiva Yadrig Vishaya Swayam Stata Kim Varnyate Dishtam Mato Rachao Kasam. So Om Gana Timirandasha Gananjana Shalakya Chakshur Un Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, what is being discussed here, of course, is the rarity of one attaining the position of being an associate of the Lord in Vrindavan. Of course, here I'm making reference to the cowherd boys. And as we talked about yesterday, we talked about Krita Punya Punya. Remember that? We were talking about perform meritorious activities or sukriti activities. And we define these sukriti activities as not mundane sukriti activities, but as spiritual sukriti, beginning with agyata sukriti, which means, we mentioned this yesterday, agyata sukriti means unknowing devotional service, accidentally doing devotional service, somehow or other rendering service to a Vaishnava, somehow or other taking prasadam, somehow or other seeing the deity, somehow or other seeing the card of Lord Jagannath, somehow or other hearing the holy name. So anyway, so we defined that yesterday. So basically what's being described is the rarity of devotional service, particularly Braja Prem. And so I was thinking about this as I read the verse yesterday, how rare it is even, to have a human body. Just like we're all sitting here in the room, and hopefully those of you who are listening have human bodies. But actually the majority of living entities in this room are not human. And that's not an insult towards any of you. I'm not saying that you're subhuman. I'm saying that there's so many billions, trillions, quadrillions, quintillions of microscopic creatures in this room. What to speak of bugs? There's probably a cockroach running around somewhere in the room. But not only that, even in your body, you're not the only living entity. How many cells, how many favorable bacteria in your gut? Anybody who studied Ayurveda knows you're talking about the gut there's the gut bacteria, bacteria that helps you digest the food. Actually, the bacteria, it's a very interesting biological fact that all these different creatures in your body, especially the bacteria, if they're favorable, help you digest the food, and without them you wouldn't be able to digest your food. So you're really in the minority here. If you actually did a survey of how many human beings or people in human bodies or souls in human bodies there are, as compared to how many souls there are in other types of living entities, wouldn't even be significant. The ratio wouldn't even be significant. So it's very rare. And of course, you find the different Shastras mention this too. As Prahlad Maharaj says, what Komara Acharet Pragyo Dharmam Bhaktanviha Durlabha Manasa Janma Tadab Dhruvamarthadam. He said, you should take up Krishna consciousness every moment of your life. Komaram Acharet Pragyo. The word Acharet is in the imperative in Sanskrit, which means you must do. Not that you should do, or you can do, or you may do. It means you must do. Komara Acharet. You must take it up. Pragya, from the very beginning of life. Because Durlabha Manasa Janma Tadav Dhruvamarthadam. What does that mean? Durlabham Manasa Janma. Durlabham Manasa Janma means it's very difficult to take a birth as a human being. And most people in this world are not actually acting as human beings, as Lord Vrishabhadeva says in 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, advising his sons to act like human beings. He says, what? Nayam deho deho vajram niloke kashnam kamam arhate vidbhujam ye tapo divyam putraka yena satvat shudyat yasmad brahma shokam chvanantam. That, my dear sons, don't act like pigs. He's stool eaters. He uses a more, what we call, scatological term. Scatological means dealing with fluids. Stool eaters. Don't be like a stool eater. Kastam kamam aride vidbhujam. Yeah, vidbhujam. That's the same thing. So, therefore, we should be really attentive, understanding what a great gift we have in this human form of life. Now, even those who have human forms of life, to become Krishna conscious is so rare, and that's described in the Bhagavad Gita. Actually, the first time I heard these verses in the Bhagavad Gita, I actually got discouraged. Well, what are they? There's 2 verses in the Bhagavad Gita that, for me, were very discouraging in the beginning. They are Manushanam Sahasreshu Kaschan Yatati Siddhaye Yatatamapi Siddhanam Kaschan Bam Veti Tatvataha. Why would that be discouraging? Many, many men, those that are looking for perfection, hardly one attains that. And for those who have attained perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Oh my God, what am I doing in the Krishna consciousness movement? If hardly anyone who's looking for perfection knows, and even people who attain perfection know Krishna. And there was another very discouraging verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Can you guess it? No. Bahunam janmanmante, yanavam prapajate, vasudeva saramiti samahod mahatma sudurlabha. That's another. I'm not saying ultimately these verses are encouraging. And I'm just saying the first time I read them, I thought, oh my God, Bahunam janmanmante. After many, many births and deaths. And I was thinking after reading the description of how the soul in the womb suffers many, many births and deaths. You know, you go into a womb of a mother and then, whew, especially if they're eating spicy food or something like that. You know, like you all like chili peppers, right? Spicy food. So the ladies eat chili peppers while they're pregnant, and the poor child is just, and the mother's thinking, oh, he's moving, but he's actually squirming in the womb. And Prabhupada said, Jai Shri Shri Gauranatai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakanta Ki Jai. So, anyway, so you hear these verses, many, many births, out of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. And then you hear about the rarity of devotional service. Actually, it's really interesting. I have some verses here, some things that Prabhupada said in the Nectar of Devotion. Here's a statement by Prabhupada. In the preliminary phase of spiritual life, there are different kinds of austerities, penances, a similar process for attaining self-realization. However, even if an executor of these processes without any material desire, he can still not achieve devotional service. You know, you're doing all these things, you don't have any material desire, you still can't achieve devotional service. And aspiring by oneself alone to achieve devotional service is also not very hopeful, because Krishna does not agree to award devotional service to merely anyone. Krishna can easily offer a person material happiness or even liberation, but he does not agree very easily to award a person engagement in his devotional service. Devotional service can, in fact, be attained only through the mercy of a pure devotee. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, by the mercy of the spiritual master, who is a pure devotee in the mercy of Krishna, one can achieve pure devotional service. There is no other way. Another quote here. The rarity of devotional service is also confirmed in the Tantra Shastra, where Lord Shiva, this is all from Nectar Devotion, says to Sati, my dear Sati, if one is a very fine philosopher analyzing the different processes of knowledge, he can achieve liberation from material entanglement. By performance of ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas, one can be elevated to the platform of pious activities and thereby enjoy the comforts of material life to the fullest extent, but all such endeavors can hardly offer anyone devotional service to the Lord, not even if one tries for it by such processes for many, many thousands of births. Wow. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is also confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj that merely by following personal efforts, and of course that's a famous verse, Matirna Krishna Patatos Vatova, Vato Padyeta Graha Vratanam, Adanda Gopir, Vishtam Tameshram, Punak Punas, Charvita Charvan, you know, famous verse that I think you all know, not by conferences, not by thinking about it, and otherwise you'll be engaged in chewing the already chewed. That merely by personal efforts or by the instructions of higher authorities, one cannot attain the stage of devotional service. One must become blessed by the dust of the lotus feet of a pure devotee who is completely free from the contamination of material desires. So, anyway, then reading all these sort of discouraging, not really discouraging, but points that say, oh my God, it's so hard, rarely achieved. You know, this is Nectar Devotion, rarely achieved. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Then I think about this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, the conversation between Maharaj Rahugana and Jadabharata. And this is a very interesting conversation. Anyway, everybody knows who Maharaj Rahugana and Jadabharata. Jadabharata is the third incarnation, or second, whatever, incarnation of Bharat Maharaj, who was a deer previously, and then he became this Jadabharata who refused to engage in any sort of mundane talk or anything related with this world. Actually, he was a real Avaduta. Oops, is that my phone? Let me turn this off. Okay. He was a real Avaduta. He didn't even clean his Brahmin thread or take a bath or anything like that. So anyway, so he was carrying the palanquin of Maharaj, one of the persons carrying the palanquin of Maharaj Rahugana, and he just acted like a dumb idiot, so nobody would bother him. He could just be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But when Maharaj Rahugana challenged him and insulted him, he actually responded in a very philosophical way to Maharaj Rahugana. And there's one famous verse that really gives us the information as to how we can achieve pure devotional service and the position of being in Braj. Not that we can actually be one of the main coward boys or gopis or anything like that. That's impersonalism. To think that, oh, I want to be Subal, or I want to be Mother Yashoda, or I want to, this impersonalism. But we can follow in their footsteps and come to a higher level of devotional service. And the way given by Jad Bharat is very interesting, very much in relationship to the verse here. Ruhuganai tat tapasa nayati, dacheja nirvapanad grahadva, nachandasa naiva jalagnu suryar bana mahatpada rajobi shekam. Beautiful verse, actually. It's one of Prabhupada's favorite verses. My dear King Ruhuganai tat tapasa nayati, that if you think you're going to become Krishna conscious or self-realized or go back to Godhead by executing austerities, and then he gives a list of austerities, like putting yourself in fire in the middle of the summer, or putting yourself in ice in the middle of the winter, Jalagni Suryar. Actually, we were talking about this last night in regard to Draupadi's last life. Everybody remembers this last night? No. Last night, Draupadi in her last life, when she was performing austerities to Lord Shiva, that's exactly what she did. She put herself in fire in the middle of the summer and put herself in ice in the middle of the winter. And as a result, she got 5 husbands. So we don't want 5 husbands or 5 wives or anything like that. So don't do that. Actually, another thing Prabhupada said, that actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Prabhupada said that if one performs too many austerities, it makes the heart hard. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Jaiva Dharma says it dries one up. So one becomes very, very dry. And a devotee is a rasika person. He's not dry, he's full of what? Ras. He's full of ras, full of taste. Like you see Prabhupada. I mean, Prabhupada was like the ultimate rasika person, full of taste. And Prabhupada, well, his austerity, as far as personal austerity, was doing what was necessary to please Krishna and rejecting everything that was against pleasing Krishna. That was his austerity. As Lord Chaitanya teaches us about the 6 surrendering principles, what? To accept everything favorable, reject everything unfavorable, right? First 2 principles. So Prabhupada, I mean, looking at Prabhupada from a external viewpoint, Prabhupada enjoyed tasty prasadam. And the interesting thing is Prabhupada, in my memory, he never fasted completely on Ekadashi. He always took Ekadashi food. And, you know, so many times, after Prabhupada left, people started doing these really heavy austerities, staying all night in Ekadashi and not drinking or anything. Actually, especially with the weather here, if you don't drink on Ekadashi, you could easily get kidney damage because you're sweating all day, like even in the temple because the air conditioner's not working. You know, I just basically need to drink a lot of water after I come back after class. So Prabhupada really didn't engage in what you call the typical yogic austerities. In fact, Srila Prabhupada took hours a day to get a massage, which is interesting. Why would Prabhupada take hours a day to get a massage? It wasn't sense gratification. It was to please his spiritual master, to keep the body going. Just like one may have a car, so you have to spend some time fixing your car, rotating the wheels, the tires, and things like that. So Prabhupada, whatever he did, even though from an external viewpoint, it may not have appeared to be like one of the typical yogic austerities, it was real austerity. It was yukta vairagya. So if you do this falgo vairagya, which is basically doing austerities for the sake of austerities, ruhukanai tapasa nayati, nachejya nirvat panat grahadva, nachandasa naiva jalagnasriya. And then last sentence is bana mahabhada rajobi shaken. Without taking the dust of the lotus feet of a great pure devotee, no one can become Krishna conscious. So there's the secret. Because even if you take that as a negative, without taking the dust, then taking the dust gives you pure devotional service. And what does that mean, taking the dust? Now how do we understand taking the dust? Look at Prabhupada. Prabhupada took the dust of his spiritual master because his whole life, 100%, 150%, 200%, whatever, infinite percent, was dedicated to satisfying the order of his guru. Prabhupada's our acharya, our example. So his whole life was like that. So what is Prabhupada teaching us? Not that we can imitate Prabhupada, but Prabhupada is teaching us the secret of pure devotional service is to dedicate ourselves to serving Srila Prabhupada under the direction. If Prabhupada is not our direct spiritual master, then under the direction of our spiritual master, serving the mission of Prabhupada. And that will bring us to Braja Prem. Even though you have all these verses which I cited before that are indicative of how difficult it is, how rare it is, how long a process it is, then we got an easy way, isn't it? Instead of taking the difficult way. And so, just like we're reading in the Jaiva Dharma right now in our evening classes, online evening classes, we're reading about how this Babaji is giving instruction to two devotees, and two devotees are situated in different rasas or relationships, and these devotees are advancing very, very quickly. But that process that Prabhupada has taught us is that we engage in pleasing him, and then ultimately success will be there. Like Prabhupada, so many quotes: deserve, then desire, work now, what? Samadhi later. And it works. Prabhupada showed that. Now, Prabhupada left Vrindavan to carry out the order of his Guru Maharaj. And he was advised by the other residents of Vrindavan, don't leave. Don't leave, you're too old. So Prabhupada left, he took that austerity. So if we want to go back to Godhead, that's the easy, simple way. Not simply sitting in a holy place and just trying to conjure up what our relationship is with Krishna. It's not going to work, especially for those who are followers of Srila Prabhupada or followers of Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, so this is the clue to becoming Krishna conscious and taking up this rare circumstance, Krita Punya Punya. And so we have a shortcut by the mercy of Prabhupada. So any questions or comments? Yes?
You were mentioning how besides us, there's so many more humanities. It's even just in this room.
Yeah.
Bhakra writes in another place that within the womb of the mother, we are there, but there are so many other
Yeah.
like worms and whatnot, they're taking birth and existing in the same place. And he says, therefore, actually, there are brothers and sisters. It says like that, that's funny. Let's see.
That's funny. They're born at the same time.
Yeah. So the cowherd boys here are being brought by how much pious activity, of course, not ordinary pious activity.
Yeah.
Must have performed, etc. But it seems like living entities coming from different directions. Krishna descends along with many of his eternal associates.
Right.
And then others are being promoted to that position.
Right.
And it's also described that the demigods are also coming down and assisting
Right.
in such capacities. So it's from different directions simultaneously.
Yeah. Yeah, there's different types of devotees who are there. And it's we were also in the Jaiva Dharma deals with this quite extensively. Of course, Jaiva Dharma talks about the in Krishna's rasa dance, that there were the devotees who were eternally with Krishna, life after life. Not life, well, life eternally. It's not even use life after life. They're eternally with Krishna. They join Krishna's rasa dance directly. And those who were just coming for the first time, they were the ones who were prevented by their husbands to join Krishna. So there's a little bit different type of interaction the devotees have according to where they're coming from. So they were prevented by their husbands, and by that intense longing, they gave up their material bodies and actually joined Krishna in the rasa dance. So yes, there's a division.
It's also mentioned that generally the devotee, before going back to the Lord of Vrindavan, is generally transferred to another material universe where the Lord's pastimes are currently going on.
Yes.
For further training. But of course, in one sense, who cares? Because it's there for the go over it.
Yeah. There's further training. That was what I was mentioning as far as the gopis who, if one is a gopi, that they don't just go to the rasa dance. They have to be married with husbands who prevent them from going to the rasa dance. And that increases their intensity to the point that they're actually qualified to be those who actually enter the rasa dance.
It's also mentioned how the Lord's pastimes on the earthly plane are described as prototypes or exact replicas.
Yeah.
But yet there are some differences in manifestation.
Yes.
In the spiritual world, that they're in the same mood as the gopis have to sneak away from their husbands and be Krishna. There is no husbands.
Yeah, that's right.
But when the same pastimes are manifest here, there are husbands.
There are husbands.
So a little difference in manifestation.
Yeah. And also, in the spiritual realm, according to the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the devotees act as demons, which is really funny. And then Krishna, instead of killing them, there's no killing in the spiritual world, Krishna tames them. In the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, it's mentioned that, for example, the Keshi demon, who Krishna kills in the material world by sticking his fist in his mouth and choking him. In the spiritual world, Krishna tames him. And he takes all the coward boys for rides on the Keshi demon. You read this, haven't you? Anyone's read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita?
Yeah.
That's in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. And then the Aristashura demon, the bull demon at Radhakund, or before Radhakund was made, the Aristashura demon is tamed by Krishna and he gives him to Lord Shiva as Lord Shiva's bull. So it's really, or also in the spiritual world, Krishna apparently goes to Mathura and then comes right back. And then the residents of Vrindavan forget that Krishna left and came right back. And the same pastime occurs again and again, but because everyone is in the present, there's no mundane past, present, and future there. Then they're just experiencing it's a continual flow of ras in the spiritual world. So yes, the pastimes appear very differently. Not very differently, but similar. That's why Prabhupada said they're prototypes in the material world. The Brihad Bhagavatamrita is quite explicit or direct about this explanation.
I remember reading in Gopal Chompu also, Jiva Goswami says there's but certain pastime does not exist in spiritual world like birth. Krishna's taking birth. They don't
Yeah,
have any
that doesn't take place. But there's the abhiman. Okay, there's the word.
Yeah,
There's the abhiman.
Self-conception.
There's the abhiman of Yashodamai that she gave birth to Krishna.
Yeah.
You know,
That is there.
you know, like Yashodamai is aware or thinking that she gave birth to Krishna, even though there's no giving birth in the spiritual world.
So there is no Nandotsav?
No, no. Well, there is because they're celebrating that day. Krishna doesn't actually appear, but they have some remembrance of about Abhiman. You know, there's a conception that Krishna appeared. So I mean, it wouldn't be right to have a kid without a birthday.
It's inconceivable because in Adilila chapter 3.5
Yeah.
there's a verse, Brajandanandan Krishna Swarup, Krishna Nitya Lila Brajarasari. This is this Brajadham is inseparable from Guna.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to say that this is separate and that is separate. It's
Yeah.
a different level of existence. It's not in the physical level.
Yeah, it's not on the physical level. There's no time factor. It also involves, non-different means also our good old friend, the Chincha Beta Beta Tadwa. Chincha.
In
Yeah.
Krishna book,
Different and non-different simultaneously. I mean, you find this concept, this philosophical concept pervades every aspect of our philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Not only that everything is one and different from Krishna, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur even talks about how the Jiva soul, in one sense, is part of the Swarup Shakti. And normally we hear that Jiva soul is what? A different Shakti. Or different,
Jiva Soul,
yeah, Jiva, different Tattva.
marginal.
Yeah, marginal. But then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it can be considered part of this Swarup Shakti, but in the sense that that the Jiva is spiritual. Like, what is that? Vishnu Shakti Para Proktat Jaichagyakya Tata Pura. So he quotes that verse. And so there's one and different simultaneously with practically so many aspects of our philosophy, right? Or ontology or whatever. It's really beautiful. I mean, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching of Achintya Beta Beta is just like ties everything together. Without that understanding of Achintya Beta, everything is bewildering. Think about it, isn't it?
Yeah. But still, there has to be Krishna and Krishnas.
Yeah, Krishna.
Otherwise,
Krishnas.
we will not grasp it.
Yeah, I understand. But we are, in one sense, we are the same as Krishna. In another sense, we're different. Yeah, we belong to Krishna.
Yeah.
So, but what's... I mean, Achintya Beta is just like such an amazing expression of the truth.
So why we are thinking if it is achieved?
Well, because everything is Achintya.
So why you are thinking?
Ultimately, one comes to the point of it's inconceivable. Because...
Then don't think.
No. Who said don't think?
You said achieved.
I said everything is inconceivable, but it's appreciable. There's a difference between inconceivable. If you think you can understand God, like even Lord Brahma, what does he say? You probably know the verse in Sanskrit. You're the sadhu. Others may say, I don't know so many Sanskrit verses like you. I need to become Rishisha. So anyway, others may say that they know Krishna, but I don't know. Lord Brahma says that. And he's our first guru in our sampradaya. But we can love Krishna and appreciate Krishna. But that if we think that we can, even Ananta Shesh, who is the expansion of Krishna. He can't conceive.
Confused.
You know, it's just like trying to glorify Krishna, and he never comes to the end. You know, who is this Krishna? Who is this Krishna? You know, like it's just inconceivable. Yes.
Just on this topic, sorry. Just on this topic only, many times, like for us, you just now very nicely explained how, because Krishna is inconceivable, even by giving examples to Brahma and Balaram and all. But to a person in general, they might think this is like a shortcut you're just taking, or diplomacy in telling, oh, it's same but different. Just because you don't want to answer the point, or you don't know the point, or explain the point, that you just say it's same at the same time, it's different at the same time.
Well, we can explain it philosophically, certainly. I can unpack in each circumstance what achintya beta tattva means. I can explain it. I don't say it's simply inconceivable. I can explain it philosophically, but to actually fit it in within your mind is a different thing. You know, logically, yeah, I can explain. You know, we're expected to explain, but it's not that we just use the word achintya. You know, who's God? Well, that's achintya. Why does everything happen? It's achintya. You know, we know why. We know the. Oh, here's the interesting thing. We know the why. We don't know the how. We know why Krishna created the material world, right? But we don't know all the details. I mean, we know a few of the details in the Bhagavatam. But we know why. He created as a place for the conditioned souls to suffer. Therefore, we have an elaborate, what's called, I hate to use this big word, it's called theodicy. We have an excellent explanation of why bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. You know, in other words, the justice of God. We have a very, actually I was listening, oh yeah, I was listening, there was a podcast on the air, and this famous person named Stephen Meyer, someone may have heard of him before. He's actually really intelligent. He's a theist, he believes in God, he's a Christian, he believes in God. And he's a propagator of intelligent design, that's why I listen to him. So he was on this famous podcast, I forget the podcaster's name. Anyway, that's not that important. But the podcaster was basically an atheist. And the podcaster first started talking about intelligent design. And of course I agree with him because he's a scientist and he presents intelligent design very nicely, which is one of my main topics that I like to present. And then after that, he got into theology with Stephen Meyer. And he asked him, you know, basically, why are people suffering in this world? What is the question of evil? And big, intelligent PhD couldn't answer the question from a Christian perspective. In other words, he said it was achintya. He didn't use the word achintya because he didn't know Sanskrit. But he said it's inconceivable. But we can explain that. Why this world is so miserable. You know, there's a reason for it, and that's the why factor, right?
Yeah.
We understand. That's called, in philosophy, that's called teleology, the purpose of it. We have excellent teleological explanation. What's the purpose of this world? Yeah, to reform the conditioned souls. But, you know, if you ask me to describe, let's say, how an atom or a cell is composed, even the scientists say it's inconceivable. It's interesting, the scientists, they can't even analyze completely what's happening in one cell in one human body.
One lecture Prabhupada said, Andantarastha Paramanu Jayantarastha.
Jayantaratam.
That in the atom Krishna is there, and then he said Krishna is not alone.
Yeah.
All the Brajavashi is there. In the atom, all the Brajavashi.
Yeah.
This is inconceivable.
Yeah. What is that? Anora Niyam Mahatam. You know, Krishna is bigger than the biggest, smaller than the smallest. Huh? That is what I call the Shinja.
Simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Not like he's switching.
Yeah, he's not switching from one. He's not like Hanuman. Hanuman makes himself small sometimes, makes himself big sometimes. But he's not big and small simultaneously. He's one of the two. But Krishna, and he doesn't make himself as small as an atom, he just becomes like a little bug. That's when he tried to enter Lanka.
Yeah.
And when he was fighting with the demons, he made himself big. But Krishna is all the time smaller than the atom and larger. Let's say Yashodamai, she looks in Krishna's mouth. And what does she see? Isn't it? He's there, and she sees all the universes, and even herself she sees within Krishna's mouth. Huh? If that's not inconceivable, I don't know what is. I look in your mouth, I just see some tonsils
Yeah.
and bad breath. And look at, Yashodamai, he looks in Krishna's mouth. Because that's the nature of God. The point is, if God was limited, he wouldn't be God. Just like that whole point is God personal or impersonal? Of course, we say he has a personal aspect and an impersonal aspect. But people come up to us all the time, at least this is the main argument that people present to me. They said if God has a form, that means he's limited. Isn't it? It's an argument people get. And the answer is, if God doesn't have a form, he's limited. He has to have a form and not have a form simultaneously. Because if he just has one of the two, that's a limitation. If God just has a form and is not unlimited, then that's a limitation. And if God is just like everything and doesn't have any individual form or individual consciousness, then that's also a limitation, right? So limitation, unlimited means everything. That's the nature. So we have a fantastic conception or explanation of God, isn't it? I've never read any other better explanation than anyone has had, even amongst the other sampradayas, of the Supreme Personality of God. And by Prabhupada's mercy, here we are, here I am, born in the West. At least you're all Dambasis. You're born in the holy Dham, you know how to chant nicely, I can't even play the mridanga. Look at me, born in the Western world, and so how are they? And I can't say understand, but Prabhupada's given us this understanding. It's amazing how by Prabhupada's mercy, we have something that outshines any of the philosophers in the Western world, and practically any of the philosophers in the whole, everywhere. Isn't it? And I don't have a PhD either. So, all right, so I think we have to end.
I have it.
Yeah,
If we have to.
yeah.
Why Jarabharat paid attention to answer Raghuna's when he never answered to his father to correct himself, or to his brother who was abusing him, or even his people who wanted to kill him, but never responded anyone. Why to Raghuna?
Well, the people who wanted to kill him were not worthy recipients. Actually, one of the points, the offense on chanting? Now, don't preach the glories of the Lord to those who are faithless.
Yeah, 9.
So his family was a rabbinical family, but they were basically faithless. Because they couldn't see the spiritual qualities beyond the body.
But his father had an affection for him.
His father had affection for him, yes, but it was mundane affection. Because he couldn't see that he were dealing with a pure devotee of the Lord. Whereas Maharaj Rahugana was a fit recipient. He was a Raja Rishi, actually. He was a fit recipient. So a devotee one of the qualities is a devotee remains silent unless there's, anyway, the offense on chanting is preach the glories of the Lord to the faithless. So, of course, Prabhupada said we take a risk. in our movement. And we're preaching the glories of the Lord to everybody because this is Lord Chaitanya's movement. Lord Chaitanya's Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Singha. He's the most munificent. So we take a risk because that was Lord Nityananda. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Just one point I thought is very important lesson we learned. The devotees, many devotees I listen online around the world, and one of the devotees repeatedly mentioned that the lesson from the Jada Bharat we get, which is very important in our practical life in every part of the world we live, such as association.
Yeah.
The Jada Bharat, why he was so-called fallen from that situation, because of the not having the association
Right.
with the devotees.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. That I explain it like that usually too. That the reason Jad Bharat fell down, he was when he was Bharat Maharaj. Okay, he fell down and became a deer because there weren't any devotees around. I mean, if there was even if I was around Jad Bharat, I would have said, "Hey, not Jad Bharat, Bharat Maharaj." I would have said, "Maharaj, don't you think this is dangerous for your spiritual life?"
Petting a deer?
Yeah, not just petting a deer is all right. There's no problem with that. Just like taking care of the deer and neglecting your Gayatri mantras and everything like that. Because this material world has so many attractive features, even if one's on the platform of Bhava. I mean, the other day, I'm not saying I'm on any platform. The other day I was walking in our community in North Carolina, and I saw a cute little rabbit run across my path. Rabbit?
Yeah.
Bunny, rabbit.
Money.
And I thought, oh, how cute. I should get him and keep him as a pet. So
Did you?
no, because there were other devotees around. Anyways, because there's that natural attraction for certain things that are very, they're very cute, isn't it? Like if I brought a rabbit into this room, because I wouldn't do it, it's a temple room, but let's say outside, and I would show this cute little rabbit, and I said, would any of you like to hold the rabbit? Probably Pran Govinda would like to hold the rabbit. No, he's more renounced. I mean, I would. So there's a danger in this world, and that's why we need the association of devotees, because if I started walking around with a rabbit, Pran Govinda would say, Maharaj, do you think that's appropriate for a sannyasi to walk around with a little bunny rabbit all the time?
I'm bad. I couldn't run.
So I would depend on the mercy of all of you to correct me so that I wouldn't become a rabbit in the next life.
So Maharaj, the lesson also extended from that association to the instruction or the correction from the devotees. That is a blessing for us, that when somebody corrects us or tell us what we are doing wrong, so instead of getting upset, we should be contemplating and taking as a positive reminders.
Yeah, one should see Krishna. Yomam pashati sarvatra sarvam chamai pashati tashaham na pranashami sachame na pranashati, right? One should see Krishna behind that correction. And we should appreciate it. If someone said to me, Maharaj, you're playing with a bunny rabbit too much. Of course, if one's foolish, what is that verse? Upadesho vimurkanam prakopaya nashantaye. Of course, you probably know that. That if one's a fool, then if he's given instruction, he just gets angry. If you're a murka, right? Isn't the word murka? Murkanam. Upadesho vimurkanam prakopaya nashantaye. Then one becomes not peaceful. Yeah, good questions. I think we have to end now, because Shraddhadev just brought my prasadam up there, so. And we have meetings today, ecstatic meetings.
Yes. Well, we have meeting before meeting.
Meeting before meetings, before meetings, before meetings.
Yeah.
And Pran Govinda Prabhu will be relieving me of all these heavy managements so I can